Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Amna, and I'm an Education USA advisor in the Karachi office. I would like to welcome you to today's session. Just a small request: if you have any questions, please post them in the Q&A box, and I'd be happy to take them after the presentation at the end of today's session. We are going to start in 5 minutes at exactly 4:05 p.m. So, again, thank you for joining, and we're just going to start in 5 minutes. Thank you. All right, I see that we have one question, and since we're waiting, I might as well answer that. Somebody's asking, will we be discussing the GMAT also? So while today's session is mainly focused on the GRE, we will be briefly talking about the GMAT exam as well and how that compares to the GRE, but briefly towards the end. I hope that answers your question. Thank you. All right, thank you so much everyone for waiting. It is now 4:05 p.m., so let's go ahead and start. Welcome to today's session. My name is Amna, and I'm an Education USA advisor in the Karachi office. I graduated from the University of Maryland, College Park with a Bachelor of Arts degree in Economics in the United States, and then went on to complete my MBA from IBA Karachi. For today's session, which is titled GRE or not to GRE, test taking strategies in 2025, we are going to be talking to potential graduate students who wish to study in the United States for their master's and PhD and are considering taking the GRE exam but are not sure about whether or not that is the right decision for them. So today we will talk about whether or not it's required, how schools view your scores, and key strategies that you can use for test preparation. This session is perfect for prospective graduate students, like I said, who are deciding if and how the GRE fits into their application plans. As mentioned before, if you have any questions, please feel free to type them in the Q&A box, and I would be more than happy to address them at the end of today's presentation, towards the end of the session. With that being said, let's go ahead and get started. Before I talk about the GRE, I would like to briefly introduce those of you who are attending for the first time to Education USA Pakistan, who we are and what we do. Education USA is a part of the US Department of State with more than 430 international student advising centers in more than 170 countries all across the world. Education USA Pakistan provides free advising services to Pakistani students who are interested in applying for their bachelor's, master's, or PhD in the United States. As you can see on the screen, we are your source of all official higher education information, and we provide accurate, current, and comprehensive information about US higher education. If you would like to get in touch with us, this is our email. This is our website where you can register, www.educationusa.pk. You can also reach out to us via email, which is karachi@educationusa.org if you're based in Karachi. And if you're joining from any other center, you can reach out to your respective centers in Lahore and Islamabad at the same email address, lahore@educationusa.org and Islamabad@educationusa.org. We also have an application that works like WhatsApp, and you can chat with any Education USA advisor from 9 to 5 Monday through Friday, and have a designated conversation with your designated advisor about your future graduate study plans. In addition to that, once you sign up on our website, you can view our upcoming workshops and webinars similar to the one that we are having today. On different topics ranging from the GRE to graduate preparedness to different programs, including master's and PhD specific information. To view that, you will click on the upcoming events tab on the educationusa.pk website, and you will be able to see all the programming that we have for you guys. Now, when you think about studying in the United States, it can seem quite daunting, which is why Education USA has broken down this entire application process into 5 simple steps for you. As you can see on the screen, step 1 is researching your options. This is also the most important step because the more research that you do, the more satisfied you will be with the final decision that you take on where to pursue your graduate studies. The second step of this process, which goes hand in hand with the first step, is financing your studies. Because if you don't take finances into account, then you might not be able to attend the institutions that you get admitted to. So it's extremely important to take finances into consideration when you are planning which universities to apply to. Once you are done with researching and financing, you move on to step 3, which is completing your application. And that is where taking the GRE also comes in. So today's session is related to step 3, as you can see, where you will be writing your essays, you will be requesting letters of recommendation, you will be updating your CV or resume, you will be filling out the application and then submitting it as well. Once you're done with that, there's step 4, which is applying for your US student visa. Once again, if you have any questions about that, you can always reach out to an Education USA advisor, and we would be more than happy to assist you with the US visa application process. And finally, there's step 5, which is getting ready to depart. Every year, Education USA Pakistan hosts a pre-departure orientation in the 3 major cities of Pakistan for students who are headed to the United States. And this is a great opportunity for you to network and meet with other peers who are headed to universities in the same location or in the same region. Now, once again, regardless of which of these steps you are on, you can reach out to an Education USA advisor and we will be happy to assist you with whatever queries you have, be it about completing your application or applying for your student visa or even just researching or getting started. That being said, oftentimes students ask us this question, why should they study in the United States, or what are their main reasons for studying in the United States? As you can see on the screen, these are some of the most popular answers that we get when we ask students this question about why they're going to the United States to pursue their higher education. Of course, recognition is one of the first reasons that American degrees are recognized globally. In addition to that, the US education system is renowned for its outstanding academic standards and dynamic curriculum, making it of excellent quality and a great choice. Then we also have student life. So the US is not just home to some of the best and top notch universities in the world, but it also offers an amazing campus life that is vibrant and diverse. Living in dormitories or on campus, along with attending on campus events, offers students a wide range of experiences and opportunities to learn as well as enjoy themselves and to expand upon their personal and professional network while they are there in the United States. Additionally, the US higher education system recognizes that when you enter university, you might want to pursue multiple things at the same time. For example, you might be interested in a master's leading to a PhD, or you might be interested in a professional PhD versus a traditional PhD, or you might be interested in a 2-year master's program versus a 1-year master's program. There's master's thesis programs, there are non-thesis programs. So this is where the US system is again renowned for their flexibility and the choices that it gives you as a graduate student who is headed to the States all the way from Pakistan. Additionally, there is diversity. As a result of being one of the top choices for students across the world, you will get to meet people from different cultures, different backgrounds, get to know more about their experiences in their respective countries, and just generally expand upon your friend set and your skill set when it comes to further honing your skills and becoming better in your chosen field. And finally, the US remains one of the most generous countries in the world when it comes to funding. So if you're somebody who's financially of limited means and who needs assistance when it comes to pursuing their education, then you should be looking at the different funding opportunities that US universities offer, especially for graduate students. Now let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the GRE. The GRE, or the Graduate Record Examination, is a standardized test that's widely used for admission to graduate and business schools, particularly in the United States. What is the GRE test? That's a frequently asked question. Each section of the GRE evaluates critical thinking, problem solving skills, and preparedness for graduate school admissions. There's the verbal reasoning, which measures reading comprehension. There's quantitative reasoning, which analyzes quantitative information and solving mathematical problems. And then there's the analytical writing section, which assesses the ability to construct a focused response to a prompt. So as you can see, this exam it is basically a great benchmark for universities to assess how ready the applicants are for the programs that they're applying for. And if we look at this slide, we can see how the exam is set up. There's the first section, which is the analytical writing section. It always comes first. It's a 30-minute long section, and you are asked to analyze one issue task. Then there's the quantitative reasoning section. This can come before or after the verbal reasoning section. There's no fixed order to this. There are two parts to this. The first section is 21 minutes and 12 questions. The second section is 26 minutes and 15 questions. So a total of 47 minutes will be spent for quantitative reasoning. And then there's verbal reasoning, which has section 1, which is 18 minutes and 12 questions, and section 2, which is 23 minutes and 15 questions, resulting in a total of 41 minutes. If you would like to take a screenshot of this page to save and come back to later, you're more than welcome to go ahead and take a screenshot and save it in your notes if you wish to come back and see how the GRE is set up. Now, an important thing to note is that the GRE is a computer-delivered test, which is why it has a test-taker-friendly design and it lets you skip questions within a section, go back and change answers, and you have the flexibility to choose which questions within a section you want to answer first. So you cannot switch between sections, but within the same section, you can move between questions. This is called section level. There's also something that's called section level adaptation, which means that the verbal reasoning and quantitative reasoning sections are section level adaptive. This means that the first section that you will get for each of these will measure the average difficulty. So it's of average difficulty, and based on your performance on that section, the difficulty level of the second section will be modified by the exam. For example, if you do very well on the first quantitative reasoning section, the second quantitative reasoning section will be at a higher level of difficulty. So don't be surprised if suddenly the second set of math questions that you get in the GRE are much harder than the first, because that means you actually did well on the first ones and now the test is taking it up a notch, right? Similarly, if you perform really well in the first section of the verbal reasoning part of the GRE, then the second set of questions that you will be given will be much harder based on your good performance in the first part. So this is called section level adaptiveness, and this is extremely important to know as a potential test taker if you are planning on giving the GRE. The second thing is that it has some test design features that you can familiarize yourself with by using official GRE Power Prep software before the test. So you can use that to take a diagnostic test, and in that you will see that they have advanced adaptive features such as preview and review, mark and review, and the ability to change and edit answers within a section, and an on-screen calculator for the quantitative reasoning section. So once again, as you can see on the screen, Power Prep has online practice tests that you can use to go ahead and familiarize yourself with these features before the day of the exam so that you are not caught off guard and you know how to maneuver them. All right. Now let's talk about the GRE in 2025, the current landscape. Where are we at? So many top universities have made the GRE optional, but some programs, especially in STEM and business, still require it. The policies vary by institution to institution, so it's always a good idea to check the specific program requirements based on the universities which you have shortlisted. If you need any assistance with shortlisting universities or with accessing this information on their websites, again, you can always reach out to us via email, set up a one-on-one appointment, and we would be happy to guide you on how to do that. The official GRE website is www.ets.org. So this is a frequently asked question once again that we get, that how do you register for the GRE? So please remember, this is what the official website looks like. You can go ahead and Google GRE registration ETS. It will take you to the home page. You will have to create an account, and then you can go ahead and review the different test dates that are available within your respective cities, and which of those is most convenient for you based on location, where you're located within the city. All right. And additionally, it's important to note that there have been some changes to the GRE recently. So in September 2023, the GRE exam was shortened. However, none of the content changed on the exam, and it still tests the same skills using all the same question types. So that's good news if you have an older version of a GRE prep book and you are planning on using it, because the content remains the same, but the duration has significantly changed. And within the content, some parts have been removed, as you can see on the screen. For example, earlier they used to have two analytical writing assessments, which was an issue essay and an argument essay. But now, after September 2023, the argument essay has been removed and there's only the issue essay, which will be how you start the test. Additionally, you can see that in quantitative sections, there used to be 20 questions and two sections. Now there are only 12 and 15 questions, respectively. In verbal, also, you used to have 20 and 20 questions in two sections, but now you have 12 questions and 15 questions, respectively. So the total time of the exam has gone down from 3 hours 45 minutes to 1 hour 58 minutes. That is significant decrease in time, and that's great news for test takers because that means less burnout. You need less stamina to sit through a nearly 4 hour exam. Now it's less than 2 hours, and it's so much easier to navigate. Also, there used to be an analytical, just research based section that they used to give you, either verbal or quantitative, which was for the makers of the test to study different question types and to gather data. Now that has been removed, so that no longer exists, which makes it easier for test takers to give the exam because they were not told which of those sections was the testing section, which was for data gathering purposes. Additionally, thanks to the changes, you also have now faster score delivery, which is 8 to 10 days as opposed to longer, approximately 2 weeks or longer in the earlier test. And overall, it's great news for test takers that it has been shortened. And the GRE continues to be accepted by thousands of graduate business and law schools for master's, MBA, JD, and PhD programs. So let's go ahead and talk about when is the GRE required. Like I said, STEM programs like engineering, computer science, physical sciences often still require this test. Some business and economics programs may request it, especially if you are asking for any kind of funding. So if you're looking for GA-ships, which is graduate assistantships, any TA ships or RA ships, then they might ask you to give the GRE just to see where you land. So it's important to check the university and department specific requirements, especially because while the university may not require it at large, if you are requesting funding or any kind of additional GA ship from the department itself, they might wish to see a GRE score in your application. As international students, the most important thing to remember is that the GRE serves as an equalizer. What does that mean? This means that the GRE puts you on the same level playing field as other applicants from India, from China, from Brazil, from Morocco. So, if you're somebody who has graduated from a university that might be in one of the more remote areas of Pakistan and it's not as internationally renowned as other universities, then you can take the GRE, secure a really good test score, and strengthen your application for your graduate program applications, right? So think about it this way, that this is a great boost to your application. We will talk about the benefits of the GRE further in the upcoming slides, but this is just to remember that it is something that will add to your profile. Now, generally, the important thing to remember when it comes to university specific policies is that, for example, Harvard University, while it's test optional for some programs, does consider high GRE scores as impressive, particularly for STEM and public health degrees. Princeton, for example, still considers it an important factor, especially for PhD programs in economics, public policy, and STEM. If we talk about Columbia University, they have a policy that is department specific, but GRE scores are often required or recommended for programs in data science, engineering, and international affairs. If we talk about University of Pennsylvania, they have some master's programs that are optional, but competitive programs such as the Wharton School still do recommend submitting scores. So you can do more research about which programs you're interested in, but there's a lot of schools that might not require it, but they will consider it and they will look at your scores with seriousness if you submit them. All right. So once again, like I said, not only does it provide a standardized metric for evaluating applicants across different backgrounds, different continents, different countries, different educational systems and trajectories, it also helps you make up for any weaknesses that you might have in your application. For example, if your grades were not consistent throughout your academic career and there was a time in your life in your undergrad or your master's degree, if you've got a master's degree already, where you were deficient in any specific course or in any specific area, then you can offset that by getting a really good GRE score. Also, like I said, universities do consider it, so just because they say it's optional does not mean it's ignored, and a good score can still strengthen your application because it indicates that you have the quantitative and verbal proficiency that is needed to thrive in your graduate program. Additionally, just remember that the GRE is one of the factors that are considered. There are many other factors like your research history, your resume or CV, your letters of recommendation, your personal statement or statement of purpose, which will be looked at very seriously. Your grades from previous degrees, when universities are evaluating you as a potential candidate for their program. So, should you take the GRE or should you not take the GRE? The $1 million question, right? The first most important thing is that you should research your target programs and make a list of the GRE requirements. So, you need to know which universities you are interested in applying to, and once you know that, you should go ahead and write down each of their specific GRE policies. So if one university says it's optional, please write that down. If one of them says that we required by XYZ deadline, write that down on your list. Just make a comprehensive chart when it comes to GRE requirements. Additionally, if it's optional for a university, now you need to review your profile and decide whether it's already strong enough without the GRE, or can a really good GRE score supplement it and further strengthen your profile and make you an even more competitive candidate for your graduate program. If it is required, then you have to give the GRE if it's required by the program or the university. And in that case, you should plan your test preparation early and schedule the exam strategically so that you can give it with ample amount of time before the deadlines, and the universities can receive your scores in a timely manner so that they can be added to your profile and your application can be considered complete, right? What are some reasons that generally students consider taking the GRE? The first one is if they're applying to highly competitive programs. So while many universities have waived the GRE, some departments, like I said, engineering, economics, hard sciences, still use scores to evaluate applicants, and especially if they're competitive programs. So a strong score can give you an edge over other candidates who either have not taken the GRE or don't have as good of a score. The second reason is if your GPA is not as strong as you like. So if you wish your GPA was higher, there's no way you can go back in time and change your existing GPA for your respective degrees. But what you can do is you can supplement your GPA by taking a by securing a really good GRE score and further adding to your profile. Additionally, if you're somebody who has a non-traditional background, like I said, or if you're somebody who's applying from international countries, or countries where the academic system is different from the United States, which is true in our case, then you can go ahead and give the GRE to help validate your academic aptitude to the admissions committees. Additionally, if you're somebody who needs funding, then some universities and scholarship committees consider GRE scores when they're awarding merit based scholarships, fellowships, and assistantships. So, a high score can increase your chances of receiving financial aid. If you're also somebody who's undecided about which programs to apply to, it's a good idea to give a GRE because these scores are accepted by a wide variety of master's, PhD, and MBA programs globally. And this single test can keep your options open while you are exploring different types of programs and deciding on which one you wish to choose and apply to. Also, if you're applying to any specific programs that do require it, then you do have to take the GRE because it is a requirement, and without that, your application would be considered incomplete. Now, what are some reasons that you should skip the GRE or people might skip the GRE? They might not take it. The first thing is that their target programs don't require or accept it. So, if you are applying to universities like humanities, social sciences, or any public health programs where the GRE is not a requirement, then you don't have to necessarily take the exam. The second reason that students sometimes skip it is because their overall application is already very strong. So, if you have a high GPA, you have compelling work experience, or you've done a lot of research, you have really strong letters of recommendation and an excellently written statement of purpose, then spending time and money on the GRE might not be the most effective use of your resources. Additionally, if you are not confident about your score, so if you are one of those people who wishes to automatically report the score that you get, but your score is not high enough, then it could actually take away from your profile. So if you get a low GRE score, then perhaps you shouldn't report it because it might take away from an otherwise strong and complete application. And finally, if you are somebody who wishes to save time and save money, then and you don't want to spend the $220 on the GRE, including the time that you end up spending on preparing for it, on taking practice tests, on studying your answers, then you might be somebody who decides to skip taking the GRE altogether. Now, that being said, if you have decided to take the GRE, right, then some strategies to use to better prepare for the exam would be to familiarize yourself with the test format and question types. Understanding the adaptive nature of the test, like I said, the second section will adapt based on your responses to the first section, will help you adjust your performance and improve it. The second thing that you can do as a strategy if you wish to take the test is to use the free ETS official practice tests and the free resources that are available on the web to prepare for the GRE and to supplement your ongoing efforts. The third thing is that you can focus on timing and practice spacing. So, one of the most basic mistakes that students make on standardized tests is they get stuck on one question and they spend too much time trying to solve that one difficult question as opposed to spending their time and allocating it wisely amidst other questions as well. So what happens is that by fixating on one question, they end up missing out on the questions towards the end of the section because they run out of time. So pacing and figuring out your timing is extremely important for the GRE, and the more tests you take, the better your pacing and your timing will be when it comes to solving particularly difficult and challenging questions. Finally, taking diagnostic tests earlier can help you gauge your base levels much better, and it can show you how far you have to go to achieve your desired target score. We do recommend getting a score of 320 plus, so the higher your score, the better it is, but having a benchmark of 320 in mind is a good strategy to have when you are trying to secure a particular score. So keep this in mind, and when you are taking practice tests, review the mistakes that you have made carefully to strengthen your weak areas and study any repetitive patterns that are coming up in your test taking abilities as of now. Additionally, you can also go ahead and balance GRE prep with your ongoing full-time job and coursework if you're still enrolled in your previous degree, by spending the evenings and the weekends and harnessing downtime, especially on your weekends, to prepare for this test. You can also enhance your vocabulary and English comprehension skills using GRE flashcards, which are a really good resource if you want to just practice increasing your word bank when it comes to the verbal reasoning part of the GRE. You can also practice quantitative reasoning regularly and, like I said, identify any repeating patterns or any common mistakes that you are making to eliminate them and work on those specific parts of the quantitative area. Finally, there's so many free resources, like I said, that are available, as you can see on this screen as well, that you can use to further prepare for the GRE and to strengthen your application. So you can see there's ETS Power Prep, like I mentioned. ETS has also launched this new option, which is called GRE Mentor. So you can pay, with it, you can actually receive a discount at the time of registration if you choose to avail this service. And basically, it's a paid service through which you can time yourself and play games that are GRE oriented. You can get access to official GRE practice tests. You can also get access to official GRE practice questions that are divided area wise. So it's a great resource once again, in addition to the PowerPrep software that they make accessible to potential test takers. In addition to that, the Magoosh GRE resources are also a great option. The Manhattan Prep has a lot of great GRE prep resources, and Khan Academy does great math reviews if you're somebody who's struggling with the quantitative part of the exam. Now let's move on to some alternatives. So I got a question at the start of this webinar, am I going to be talking about GMAT? And the answer is yes, I will be briefly comparing the GMAT to the GRE because it's important to know what both are so that you can make an informed decision about which one is more relevant for your program. So as you can see on the screen, some other graduate level tests that are commonly mentioned in the same conversations as the GRE include the LSATs, LSATs, the GMAT, and the NCAT, right? There's also portfolio-based admissions in creative fields if you're applying for a digital design or a virtual arts degree or any kind of degree that requires multiple fields where it's combining AI and it's combining robotics or it's combining engineering with, STEM. So with other parts of STEM and that are digitally enhancing content. So whatever degree it is that you're applying to, it's important to know what the requirements are at the time of admission, right? You should focus on programs that place greater importance on GPA, research, essays, and recommendations if you're somebody who's trying to avoid taking the GRE. So definitely study the program that you're applying for and become familiar with how much emphasis it places on the GRE. So if you are trying to avoid taking the GRE, then you should not be aiming for programs that place a lot of emphasis on it or that seriously consider it, because of course then you would be required to, if not highly recommended to take it. Now let's talk about the LSAT. So the Law School Admission Test, or the LSAT, is a standardized multiple choice skills based exam that's administered by the Law School Admission Council, LSAC, to measure preparedness for law school. It assesses skills like reading comprehension and logical reasoning, which are crucial for first year law school success. The test includes multiple choice sections and a required writing sample that's taken separately. The LSAT is for law school only. So, and it is a more difficult logic focused exam, while the GRE is for general graduate programs and includes math and verbal sections. Most, but not all, accredited law schools do accept the GRE, so you should check your target school's official website to see what their policy is with regards to the LSAT versus the GRE. The GRE is often more manageable and easier to study for, but the LSAT is preferred, of course, as the test for law school admissions and tests crucial skills for law school success. So at the end of the day, if you decide to take the LSATs instead of the GRE, then you are presumably more oriented towards going to law graduate school, right? Versus if you are somebody who's still undecided about which field they wish to go to, and it could be law or another field, then it's probably better to take the GRE. Talking about the MCAT or the Medical College Admissions Test, this is once again a standardized computer based multiple choice exam required for medical school admissions in the United States and Canada. Administered by the AAMC, this exam assesses problem solving, critical thinking, and knowledge of science concepts that are necessary for medical school. It covers four sections: biological and biochemical foundations of living systems, chemical and physical foundations of biological systems, psychological, social, and biological foundations of behavior, and critical analysis and reasoning skills. So, if you're somebody who's interested in studying medicine, then you should send us an email, have a separate one on one conversation with us about medical school and studying clinical medicine in the United States, because it's differently set up as compared to Pakistan, and it's important to know the differences before you go ahead and decide to pursue clinical medicine and apply to those programs. And finally, let's talk about the GMAT, right? So the primary difference between GMAT and GRE is that GMAT is primarily for business school, whereas GRE is once again for general graduate programs across different fields, including business, but not limited to business. So, key distinctions include the fact that the GMAT's computer adaptive program and integrated reasoning is a little different from the GRE's broader scope and emphasis on vocabulary. The GRE is generally considered easier in math, particularly due to a calculator, and it includes a 30-minute writing section, which the GMAT does not. In terms of GMAT, it's primarily designed for admissions in MBA programs and other business related degrees. The GRE is acceptable to more programs. Format wise, there's a quantitative reasoning, verbal reasoning, and data insights section in GMAT. So there is no data part in the GRE, but there is a data insights section in the GMAT. And there's no analytical writing section in the GMAT, whereas there is an analytical writing section in the GRE, right? In addition to that, the GMAT is known for having data analysis questions that are challenging and test future MBAs and future business leaders' ability to interpret and understand data and make syntheses based on the data that is shown to them. So basically, once again, if you are applying for business school or business related programs, check the program's website on your respective university's official websites and see what the requirements are, whether they accept the GMAT, whether they accept the GRE, whether they have a strong preference towards either of them, or whether they don't accept one of them. Because again, if you don't check the requirements and you give one of these two tests and it's not accepted at that university, then you are going to end up wasting a lot of time, money, and effort. So it's better to go in prepared and make sure that you know what the program requirements are when it comes to GRE versus GMAT. With that being said, let's talk about some key takeaways. So, based on today's presentation, I'm sure you've gathered that the GRE is optional at many schools, but still required at some. And that's why it's so important to check the program's specific policies. Even if the GRE is optional, like I said, it can add value to your profile because strong scores can still give you an advantage. So make sure you know what kind of a score you can secure on this test and whether or not it's going to supplement and strengthen your existing application for grad schools. Thirdly, submitting GRE scores can also strategically strengthen your application in terms of making it more holistic and more competitive as compared to other candidates who haven't taken the GRE. So if you have taken the GRE, that also shows initiative and seriousness when it comes to grad school, and that can reflect positively as long as your score is of a competitive nature and falls within the range that is generally acceptable at the program and university that you're applying to. And finally, there's so many free resources that are available to help you get started with your GRE preparation. So please make sure you use them wisely. After today's session, your action plan should be, if you haven't done so already, to create a list of target programs, use websites like, phdportal.com, mastersportal.com, and see the different requirements that those specific universities have by visiting the university's official website and looking at their admission requirements tab. The second thing is that you need to evaluate your existing readiness for grad applications in a very holistic manner. So pretend that you are an admissions officer at one of these universities. What do you think your application looks like right now? Is there anything that is missing? Is there anything that is considered a weak area? what would you like to do to further strengthen your existing application? That's a good approach to help you decide how to move forward with the graduate applications that you are submitting to the United States. And finally, do enough research and make an informed decision based on your target programs, based on your existing profile, based on whether taking the GRE is the right strategic move for you or not. On that note, we are done with today's presentation. Thank you so much for paying such great attention. I'm now going to move on to the questions part of the webinar. So somebody's asking which book is best for GRE preparation. There's a lot of different books that are available there. There's Manhattan Prep, like I said. There's Magoosh, which is a virtual blog that you can use. You're also asking which the centers are and what's the cost. Like I mentioned, it costs $220 to take the test. If you want to know more about centers, you can go to the official GRE website, ets.org, and look at the different centers that are available to you and the different dates that are available to you based on your location right now. All right, great. Somebody else is asking, what are the different types of GREs that are available? So today's presentation was about the GRE general test, but there are GRE subject tests that are also available that are basically for fields like biology, chemistry, literature, mathematics, physics, and psychology. If you wish to know more about the subject tests, they're basically to measure in-depth knowledge and understanding within a specific academic subject. They're single subject specific exams, and you can find out more about them by visiting the ETS website. Can you get the recording of today's session? So this session recording will be posted on the Education USA Pakistan YouTube page in the coming days. So please check back in and you should be able to view the recording of today's session. Sorry. I want to pay for GRE Mentor. Can I pay the fee to USC no, you cannot pay the fee to us to register you. You can register directly using the ETS website and sign up for GRE Mentor, and that should work out perfectly for you. What does our institution do? So, like I said, Education USA Pakistan provides free advising services to Pakistani students who wish to apply for their bachelor's, master's, and PhD in the United States. We have advising teams based out of Lahore, Karachi, and Islamabad. So depending on which area you are located in within Pakistan, you can reach out to the nearest advising center, and you can get in touch with our teams virtually by emailing us at our respective emails. I've listed Karachi's email on the screen. It's the same for Lahore and Islamabad as well. So Lahore at the rate of educationusa.org and Islamabad at the rate of educationusa.org, and our advisors would be more than happy to assist you, meet with you virtually for a one-on-one, and guide you with regards to any queries you have specific to graduate applications. All right. Right. Okay. So somebody is asking a very particular question about GRE waiving and not needing IELTS for PhD. I do recommend that you get in touch with us via email after this session, and we can guide you in a one-on-one that is dedicated to your case. All right. Does giving the GRE help with securing higher scholarship amounts, even when the program itself does not require you? Yes, like I mentioned, taking the GRE and having a competitive score of 320 plus can significantly increase your chances of receiving funding. But that being said, there is no way to guarantee or to predict whether or not you will receive funding. That varies based on your profile, based on the number of applicants that year, based on the amount of funds that the university had available for its graduate students. There's a lot of different factors that go into that. But if you wish to improve your chances of being a competitive candidate for funding, then you should seriously consider taking the GRE, because it shows initiative on your part and it shows readiness on your part as well. All right. Somebody's asking about the analytical writing assessment part and different topics that are there for it. So if you use any GRE prep software, any GRE prep book, then you will be able to see sample prompts and practice from those for the GRE. All right. What's better, GRE or GMAT when applying to business schools? Honestly, the one that is required by university is the better one that you should opt for. So this is where doing your research and looking at the different policies comes in. Please make sure you thoroughly review your university's policies when it comes to admission requirements. And if they're okay with either one, you can take a practice test for the GMAT, you can take a practice test for the GRE and see which one works better for you. And also look at the program that you're applying for and which one is more relevant to that program. But generally, universities do mention which one they prefer, or if there is a specific requirement only for one of them. All right. Another PhD candidate who's asking a very specific question, I would request you to email us, please. All right. For questions about Columbia University, you can visit the Columbia University website and look at the specific program. So once again, it's important to remember that generally there's university requirements and then there's departmental requirements. So in order to figure out what Columbia's requirements are for your program, you need to visit the departmental website. So if you're applying for engineering, go to the engineering's page website. School of Engineering's website. If you're applying for economics, go to the Department of Economics website on Columbia University's official site, and you will be able to get all the information that you need about admissions requirements and timelines. All right. Again, for case-specific questions, please feel free to reach out to us. Somebody's saying the GRE is a requirement for Fulbright. Absolutely, it is a requirement. You are required to give the GRE and secure a minimum score. If you need more information on that, you can email info@usefp.org, and our program officers for Fulbright would be happy to assist you with your queries on the Fulbright scholarship. All right. Great. Thank you so much for all the questions. I think at this point, somebody's asked me to repeat the price. It's $220, like I said. Somebody mentioned their GPA and said, how much time will it take to prepare? Once again, if you want a study schedule, we'd be happy to guide you on how to create a GRE dedicated study schedule to help you optimally prepare for the test. And somebody is asking how to get extra time for test takers with ADHD and OCD. This is a great question for people with any kind of formal disability documentation from a qualified professional detailing their diagnosis for ADHD or any functional limitations that it imposes. You can actually go ahead and complete an accommodation request through the ETS website. But of course, you have to submit documentation and proof as a part of that. Somebody's asking, can we reach out to the given Karachi email for advisory counseling if we're not from the city? Like I said, if you're based in Punjab, you can reach out to the Lahore side. If you're based in the northern areas, you can reach out to the Islamabad team. If you're in the south of the country, you can reach out to Karachi. If you're based out of Sindh and Balochistan. All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for all of these questions. If you still have a question that has not been answered, then you can please reach out to us via email. We'd be happy to assist you with answering your queries. On that note, thank you so much for taking out the time to attend today's session. We hope you found it useful, and we hope to see you back for future webinars as well. Thank you. Take care. Have a great day.